We have a lot of guests here today, which is good. It means our club is growing. And I'm kind of doing my job. Maybe you saw a post on Facebook, or I've increased my presence on the internet to hear about the club. So I'm going to kind of go over the agenda for tonight and how it's going to run. So I would like to have our grammarian, which is Dave, for tonight, kind of give us an idea of what your role is going to be and the word of the day as well.
Okay. So this is my third meeting, and as I understand it, I listen to everyone's speeches, their part, and count frequently used filler words, and also count the word of the day, which is callow. Inexperienced, young, or immature. It's an adjective. Callow.
Thank you, Dave, for that explanation, the grammarian. So, along with the grammarian, we will have the general evaluator, first evaluator, and second evaluator. So, are you doing sure?
I shouldn't be.
Yeah, because you.
Yeah, I just realized that. I missed that one.
Okay, so does anybody want to be? Are we going to get choices? Otherwise, I will do it if that need to be. Or Maurice, you're an evaluator anyhow, right? Do you want to be GE also?
Oh yeah, I'll be GE.
All right. So, Maurice, can you give us kind of a.
Yes, the general evaluator will give the general evaluation of the whole of the meeting as a whole, and then he will introduce each evaluator, the timer, the grammarian, to give their reports.
Thank you, Maurice. And our timer for today is Tom. Tom, can you explain what the timer does?
Yes, I'll be timing the speeches, the evaluations, and the table topics for the evening. Depending upon which manual the speaker is working from, the speech will have a time frame with a 2-minute spread. For example, typically most competent communicator speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. The green light or green sign would come up at 5 minutes. The yellow sign would come up at 6 minutes, and the red would come up at 7 minutes. A speaker is allowed to go 30 seconds beyond and still be considered qualified to be the best speaker of the evening. Table topics is typically 1 to 2 minutes. Green sign at 1 minute, yellow at 1.5, red at 2, again with a 30-second overflow. The evaluator is allowed 2 to 3 minutes for the evaluation. So again, green sign 2, yellow sign 2.5, and then the red sign at 3. So in order to qualify for best speech, table topic, or evaluator, you must be within the time limit. And also, the timing will start with the first gesture towards the audience. It could be either physically or spoken.
Well, thank you, Tom. That's some stuff I actually didn't know, so appreciate the detail on that. So that wraps up kind of the roles for the meeting, and we'll also have 2 speakers for tonight. Our first speaker, spur of the moment, filling in a spot for Camby, will be Thomas Jester. And this is going to be a pocket speech by Thomas. I'm not really sure what he's going to do it on, but I'm sure it'll be good. He is completely as competent communicator, so it may be relevant to a speech from the competent communicator. At this time, I will relinquish the lecture to Thomas and have him do his speech. Thank you, Thomas.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever come back. Those words were written decades ago by a man who had never attended a baseball game. He had heard them on the radio, but he'd never physically ever been in a stadium. In fact, he even wrote them before you could watch them on TV. But he wrote them just egging to be one day in a stadium where he could experience the wonderful sounds, smells, and just vibrance of a baseball game. I have been blessed in my life to grow up in the South where there's enough farm teams and professional baseball teams that I never lived more than 30 minutes from a baseball stadium of one level or another. My son has been even more blessed as we've lived in 2 big metropolitan areas that both held a farm team 5 minutes from our house. Baseball is an amazing sport. I love watching it. But I love watching it in the stadium. Watching it on TV is okay. Listening to it on the radio is better. But the reason why listening to it on the radio is better is because you get more of a feeling of being there. Now, what can you expect when you go to a baseball game? Well, my son's come to expect nachos, hot dogs, and of course, some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. He's been going since he was about 6 months old. That's when he did his first baseball game, and we've done 3 to 4 a year since. But this is what makes baseball American. It's the one sport that we created a long time ago based off somebody else's thing. We didn't create it from nothing. We just made somebody else's thing different. And then we added that fun side. I enjoy walking into a baseball stadium and smelling all of the wonderful food that is obviously terrible for you. But it makes your mouth water. And it makes your nose just get excited. And it makes me, a 33-year-old man, feel like a 5-year-old again. I fell in love with baseball for a very specific reason. My dad was a baseball fan, and he pulled for the Expos, a team that no longer exists. And the Expos had a rival, and me being the third child meant that I was not going to pull for my dad's team. I've not pulled for a team he ever rooted for. So I pulled for their rival, the St. Louis Cardinals. And the St. Louis Cardinals had a hometown boy from Mobile on their team at the time. I don't know how many of you are from Mobile or have gone to the Bay Bears Stadium, but at the Bay Bears Stadium, you have a big plaque for Hank Aaron right in front of the entrance. And right next to it is a guy who played for the St. Louis Cardinals for all but 1 year of his baseball career. And that's Ozzie Smith. Ozzie Smith won countless awards. What made me get pulled into baseball was watching this 40-year-old guy run out at the beginning of an inning and do a backflip to take his position as shortstop. What further got me into this was when I watched him in his final game where he was playing the All-American game, which is where the two leagues field their best players from every team to play against each other to see who gets to be the home team for the World Series. Ozzie Smith was retiring that year, and everybody knew it. And so Ozzie Smith, being old, had gotten moved to third base because it's not required to move quite as much and be quite as quick on your feet. Well, the guy who the National League sent up as the shortstop, a young guy named Cal Ripken Jr., saw Ozzie Smith there, saw that he was listed as the third baseman, and said, I can't play shortstop if he's third baseman. He's the reason I'm a shortstop. So it's something that pulls people together across state lines. It's an amazing thing. Baseball is America's pastime. If you don't believe me, think about World War II, when all other sports got put on the sidelines as the men went overseas. But instead of letting baseball die, they started a baseball league of young women so that they could keep this sport going, in spite of the fact that the people who normally play it weren't around. So I want everybody to take part. Obviously, the baseball season's more or less over here in Mobile, ended last week. But it comes around every spring. This coming spring, go take part in America's pastime, the thing that we've used to kill more hours of more days than anything else, including football. And enjoy some peanuts and Cracker Jacks and come to understand why a man who'd never been to a game could write a song about how much he wanted to go and what it must be like to be there. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thanks for that speech, Thomas. Really enjoyed it. A little bit different than your normal speeches, going from sci-fi to baseball, so very interesting. Learned a little bit more about the city I live in too. So for our next speaker, we have Ren Bartlett. He's new to the club, but he's getting right in there and deciding to knock out his first speech. So tonight, Ren will be doing speech number 1 from the Compton Communication Manual, The Icebreaker. So let's welcome Ren Bartlett.
Wipe a sweaty hand off. All right, I'm very callow, so if you know what that means and you read your word of the day, you'll have an understanding why this may be butchered, it may not. My name is Ren Bartlett. I am from Mobile, Alabama, and my biggest fear rides right alongside of that of 76% of Americans. Can you guess what that is? Not the boogeyman. It's public speaking. Terrifies me. I wrote a list of goals every morning. One of those is to get really uncomfortable and really awkward. Public speaking makes me just that. It makes me itchy, makes me sweaty, makes my voice stutter. But it's cool. I'm gonna get out there and be awkward. Number 2, I'm in sales. One of the key attributes of a proficient salesman is to be able to command the attention of a room. Look people in the eye and persuade them to buy, sell, and believe in the product that they're selling as much as they do. And the guy that can do that the best gets the money, right? Gets the dollar bills. In fact, I'll give you a case study, if you will, on this. There was a gentleman by the name of Morgan Stanley back in the early 30s, and I may have the wrong name, but it's a good example. Is that the right name?
J.P. Morgan.
J.P. Morgan. There we go. J.P. Morgan spoke in front of a group of very influential men one summer's eve, and he was so influential and so persuasive that he single-handedly put together through one speech, one act of rhetoric, what is called the United Steel Corporation, which then became the most powerful and well-funded group of gentlemen and entity or corporation in America. And it went on to change the face of America as we knew, through industry, through the modernization of the steel process. I don't know the real details, but I thought when I read that fact in the Law of Success by Napoleon Hill, dang, if one speech can do that on one occasion, how powerful would it be if I could harness that, skill and then deploy it among the people I sell? Because I truly believe, and I'm in sales, and I do what I do because I love it, and I believe that we are better than our competitors, and we provide more value, and we can truly make a difference in business owners' lives and in their business, and help them reach their goals. So, among that, there are some other reasons that you should be great at speech. One of which is speech is communication. Communication is the backbone of our civilization. Everything is fundamentally based on communication. It allows for a connection, it allows us to influence decisions, and to motivate change. Without those 3 things, where would we be as a society? It also enables what makes the economy turn, and I hit on this once, but that's sales. Without the sale, nothing would exist. Who's married? You. Without sales, you wouldn't be married. To marry your wife, to get her to say yes to that shiny ring, you had to sell her. You had to sell her that you were the best mate, that you were going to love her the most, that you were going to provide for her in a way that no other man out there would, or else she wouldn't have loved you, she wouldn't have chose you to be her mate. You sold her on the idea that you were the perfect husband. So as fundamentally sound or as micro as that may seem, that just provides a good platform of understanding to realize that the entire world is based upon the art of speaking. So I'm here with one mission, and that is to perfect that art. I am a little bit ahead of most. I have a weekly vlog where I get in front of a camera and yak about marketing all week. I encourage you to go and watch that. It's on the Bluefish Facebook page, and it is called Marketing Madness. We have a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy it. Ren Bartlett, and that's what I got.
Good job, Ren.
Thanks.
Got up there a lot better than my icebreaker, so commend you on that. Barely used your notes, is also good. You're already ahead of the game. So thank you for getting up there and doing that.
Good job.
I enjoyed it. So at this point of the meeting, we will have our table topics master, Lawrence, come up. And for table topics, he's gonna either choose a Toastmaster member or ask for volunteers or guests. And you have the opportunity to come up here and do an impromptu speech on Lawrence's topic. All right, Lawrence.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. As he mentioned, we're going to be doing table topics. Just to give our guests a little bit of a heads up, table topics is my favorite part of this program. This is when we get an opportunity to speak spontaneously. So we're all callow in some way, right? Inexperienced, not really knowing what's going to happen, but to get an opportunity to come up here and speak. One of the reasons that this is my favorite part is because this is like the elevator speech that everybody needs to do. If you get on the elevator and your boss comes in and says, "Hey Joe, how you doing there? What's going on?" And you're like, well, you know, we're doing good. Yeah, it's all great. Ding, it's all over. But if he comes on and says, "Hey Joe, how you doing?" "Oh man, we are doing great, man. We got that project we're doing, and Mark is over there, he's getting it all set, and Jane's gonna help us out, and we'll have something on your desk by Thursday." Ding! He'll remember you because you were able to actually jump out and create something in that spontaneous moment. So, we're going to do table topics. Tonight we're going to do a little bit different. I just got back from a short vacation. Actually went and saw a wedding. May he rest in peace. But we went on a short vacation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about travel. But this is more of Tom's type of travel. We're going to be talking about a trip to colonize the moon. Now again, everybody who's on this trip is going to be callow because nobody's been there before. But each one of you is going to have an opportunity to speak a little bit, if you want to, about this trip to the moon. Now, we named our rocket ship Alice in honor of Jackie Gleason. Okay, if anybody remembers, you're "To the moon, Alice!" Right? Anybody remember that? Maybe I'm a little dated. Anyways, so the first part of this talk this evening, what we're going to do is certain people have been chosen to go to the moon. So, Maurice, I'm going to ask you to start out. You've been chosen as one of the members on this team. You volunteered and you were chosen as an engineer. There's so many challenges in creating a colony on the moon. So, what is it that you would pack in order to go on your trip to the moon? Mr. Maurice.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, the question that's been posed to me is, on this trip to the moon, creating this team, what would I bring with me to fulfill my part of the mission? My answer to that is I will bring my basic science kit, the type that you see when you're a little kid. And I'm pretty sure that'll cover at least half of what I need to do. Because for one thing, I would like to know what elements are contained in the moon dust. Another thing is, I know from the moon missions that have taken place in the past, there's not much air or oxygen there. I would like to know how much oxygen there is, if there is any at all. And besides that, find ways to take advantage of the lack of gravity. So that's my part of the mission, besides bringing the basic science kit to examine the other elements of the moon. Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, for our next topic, I'd like to have a volunteer. Is anybody, guests, members, anybody who would like to volunteer, take an opportunity here? It's going to be an easy one. Ah, right. What was your name again?
John.
John. Okay, John. Now, a very interesting part of this trip, they found out that they're going to have extra payload space. So, they're having a contest to see who can bring some personal items to the moon. You have been chosen as one of the possible contestants in this lottery. So you have to explain what is the one thing that you would want to take as a special item to the moon with you, and explain why, so that we will know whether you get to take it with you. John, what would you like to take to the moon? What personal item?
You're next. Thank you, Toastmaster and distinguished guests. I would like to bring my black iron cauldron. I am a personal chef to myself and my wife. We're both very callow when it comes to our cooking experience, but at the same time we do try out quite a bit. I believe that food is very important in our daily sustenance, so it is very important for me to make sure that we have some form of producing food. And for me, the most important part of that would be the black iron cauldron. I believe it's something you can do desserts, regular food, soups, stews, baked items such as breads, naan, other things like that. I believe it's a very versatile tool in the kitchen. Also, we have to learn how to produce fire and other such things, which I hope would come with Maurice's engineering team. We will work on that at a later date. I would like to thank everyone for this time, and I really enjoyed speaking in front of everyone today.
All right, I think we have time for one more volunteer, or maybe two. Anyone?
I'll go again.
You want to go again?
Okay.
All right.
Jumping in, man.
So,
Gotta do it. They get awkward.
you have now, are on your way to the moon. What is going to be the first thing that you're going to do for your own entertainment when you get on the moon?
That's easy. When we get to the moon, I'm gonna pull out my cell phone and I'm gonna take a selfie. Moon selfie. And I'm gonna post it on Facebook. I'm gonna tag all my friends so they can see how cool I am. And then my mom's gonna comment. She's gonna be like, oh, my baby's in the moon. And she's gonna share it. And my brother's gonna be like, Mom, why do you always comment on Ren's stuff, but you never comment on my stuff? Do you love him more than me? And she's gonna be like, well, no, you only post gangster rap stuff on Facebook, and I don't really wanna talk about that. He's always doing good stuff. Yada, yada, yada. So when I get to the moon, I'm going to take that selfie, and then I'm going to send it to Lane, and I'm going to be like, na-na-na, boo-boo, you ain't on the moon. That's the first thing I'll do when I get to the moon.
Do we have time? Mr. Timer, do we have time for one more?
Yes.
Okay, one more. We are, all right, what was your name again?
David.
David. Okay, I'm bad with names, I'm sorry. David, you are on the moon, and you have very little gravity. Someone has brought a trampoline. What in the world do you think would be the most useful thing for you to do with this trampoline?
We're going to go into the evaluations of the meeting and also the evaluations of each speech. So our general evaluator for tonight will be Maurice.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, the meeting started on time. There was no recess period. We went over a little bit of club business, namely the international dues that are due at the end of this month. And also he mentioned that our guest, Tom, the division director, will give a talk on the area or the division speech contest that's coming up in October 2nd. At this time, I will do the first evaluation on Tom's speech. I just titled it baseball. And I'll just go over this list that he gave me. And the first question asked, was the speech topic appropriate for this particular assignment? I said yes. Excellent. Did the speaker use simple, short, and clear words? Yes. Did the speaker use vivid, descriptive words that created mental images? Yes. Especially the part about Ozzie Smith. Did the speaker use words that had more than one meaning or were inaccurate? I did not notice any. I'm not saying that he did or didn't. I just didn't notice any of those words. Were the speaker's sentences short, simple, and understandable? Yes. Did the speaker use rhetorical devices to enhance his or her ideas? Yes. Did the speaker avoid jargon or unnecessary words? I did not notice any such words. Did the speaker use proper grammar and pronunciation? Yes. Was the speech purpose clear? Yes. Was the speech effectively organized? Yes. What could the speaker have done differently to make the speech more effective? I don't have any particular point to answer that question. And what did I like about the speech? His enthusiasm of baseball, not only for himself, but the previous generation, his father, and the next generation, his son. And that is the first evaluation of Thompson's speech. The next evaluator will be evaluating Ren's speech, and right, that'll be Tom.
So I also didn't catch the title of Ren's speech, but
It was let's get off.
I was like, yeah, I was like, it sounded like it was about being uncomfortable and awkward. So just real quickly, there's more to the evaluation than what I'm going to say, but the key questions were, how well did the audience get to know the speaker? I think we all got to know Ren as he's just a natural salesman, and it's something that he's very passionate about, even though that's his job, which is not always the case. We also got to see that he likes to push himself to grow, because why would you have a goal to be uncomfortable and awkward if you're not trying to grow? Did the speech have a definite opening, body, and conclusion? It definitely had a definitive opening and body. The conclusion you kind of went into so smoothly, I didn't notice that we had gotten there until you were done. And so that may have been able to be improved by just having a stronger end, not necessarily that you didn't actually have a conclusion. What could the speaker have done differently that would have improved the speech? Having slowed down and having some pauses after like the story of JP Morgan so that we could just let it sink in, that probably would have really enhanced the speech. But other than that, I couldn't find any real area that just jumped out at me. What did I like about the presentation? I loved the energy that he had while he was up here. And I also liked the fact that even though this was his first speech, he was making eye contact with like everybody in the room because he was only having to glance at his notes and could feel we could all get this personal connection. I think those two pieces made the speech so enjoyable and so refined that it's a great starting point for you to move forward from. Mr. Dye, go ahead.
Okay, at this time, we'll have the timer's report. Tom?
Everyone qualified, do you want to know the specific times?
Sure. Yes, we usually, yes.
Okay, Tom's speech went 5 minutes and 56 seconds, Ren's speech went 3 minutes and 50 seconds. We normally, our clubs, we do allow 30 seconds on the front side as well. Do you do the same?
Yes, we
Okay.
do.
Then Maurice's table topics was 1:32, John was 1:10, Ren was 38 seconds, David was 1:07 seconds.
Like that.
Maurice, 1:50 on the evaluation of Tom's speech, and Tom, yours was 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Everybody.
Thanks. Before I go to the Ramirez report, I'd just like to say quickly that Toastmasters are for everyone, whether you're experienced or callow. Okay, now for the Ramirez.
Got it.
Okay, I'll give the grammarian's report. Thomas, the first speaker, the only thing I noted was you used the word just as a filler once, maybe twice. No other filler words that I could count. Ren, you used the word of the day, callow, one time. You had a few ums, a couple ands, and a couple so's, but did a great job. Lawrence, you snuck one more callow in there. Oh wait, no, Morris. Wait, I added you to Lawrence. Okay, sorry. Give him credit where it's not due. Lawrence with the table topics intro. Said callow twice, no filler words. Maurice, the first table topic. You repeated one short word phrase, that was it, otherwise no filler words. And you snuck the callow in. I think that was good. John, what to take to the moon and why. You had or a few times, and you used the word of the day, callow, one time. Ren, on what you will take to the moon, I didn't write anything down. And for myself, I had 4 or uhs, which is better than normal. Morris?
Okay. Well, that concludes the general evaluation, and I would like to relinquish the lectern back to the Toastmasters.
So we got through the evaluations of the speech, and as I've heard, Tom will be doing the educational overview tonight to talk about an upcoming competition that we'll host here. So I will relinquish the lectern to Tom.
As Tom mentioned earlier, I'm Division D Director, and what that means is I'm responsible for basically 10 clubs in the division. Division D consists of 3 areas. Area 41 is South Mississippi. There are 4 clubs in that region, that area, 3 along the coast and 1 in Laurel, Mississippi. Area 42 is Mobile, and Area 43 is Daphne and Fairhope. Area 42 and 43 each have 3 clubs, so that's a total of 10. We are all part of District 77, which is either out of Birmingham or Montgomery, depending upon who's the division director at the time. The Toastmasters, the division conference, the division has 2 conferences per year. One is in the fall, and it's October 21st in Niceville, Florida. and then one in the spring, which has not been announced as yet. But as part of the program each time, there is a speech contest. And each club in the division is actually promoted to have, encouraged to have a speech contest. Each club has a speech contest. The clubs then compete in the area contest, and then the areas compete in the division contest, and we send a speaker to the spring conference. The highest you'll go is the district. In the fall contest. The spring contest, the winner of those contests go to the international competition, which was held in Vancouver, British Columbia, just last week, I think, or maybe the week before. So what I'm trying to do is, I know that Area 41 has had their contest. Area 43 is having theirs on April 21st. And I'm detecting that maybe Charles McCorkadell has not talked to you about having a club contest, because that should have been done honestly by now. So it's not that important. Some clubs choose not to participate. We can make arrangements for you if you want to have a contest. This particular time, the fall contest, there is a contest entitled Tall Tales, which is a 5 to 7 minute speech about the wildest, craziest thing you can possibly come up with, like a trip to the moon. And then also table topics. And those are the typical time limits. If you guys want to have a contest and Charles didn't get one put together for you, I can put you into the division contest. Because I'm the division director, I can do that. And it's something that you guys can talk about. The only thing that concerns me is I did not know there was a group coming in at 8 o'clock. So if we're having a group coming in at 8 o'clock, we probably would forego having the coffee shop provide refreshments, which we discussed earlier. But I think we can make it work. I'll provide all the materials. What I would ask is that are you Sergeant at Arms for this club?
Yep.
Okay. If you would act as Sergeant at Arms for that contest, and I'll give you the instructions on what you need to do. If you would just host it and open it, I'll have Charles do the Tall Tales contest, and he can also do the table topics. So the logistics for the table topics is a little bit different. We would ask the participants maybe to sit downstairs so that they don't know what the question is. But again, we can work out the details. It really would not other than the fact that it's changing the program for the night, it really would not interfere with what you guys do, because I'm trying to find a central location to Gulfport, Mobile, and Daphne Fairhope, which is here, and an evening contest, which you guys provide. I think the other two clubs in Mobile are both daytime clubs. It's a lot harder for people to get to a daytime club when they have jobs. So I might ask that you adjust the starting time to maybe 6:30.
We do that.
Okay.
We could do that earlier, 6:15 if you think.
We have
If we need to have enough time to get instructions out. I'm sorry?
We're allowed to be in from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Okay, we can discuss that. But I'm thinking, we did the Area 41 contest last Thursday. There was only one speaker for table topics, but there were two for Tall Tales. And we ran, the actual conduct of the meeting was less than an hour. And the preparation, though, for it took a little bit longer, but that was because it was our first experience at trying to do a contest. So they're fun. They really are. You get to see other people speak that are not part of your. See, he's already volunteered to be.
That's right.
That's a good thing. It's a good sign.
Can't
So,
volunteer to be a winner.
Stating that I'm going to win.
If you decide, I get you what the rules are, and I get the impression that you'd be really good at Tall Tales.
Yeah.
And I mean that.
It sells.
So ideally, there would be one from each area represented, but because of the lack of information from you guys, I can adjust that rule and just put you into the division contest. I'll talk to Charles though to see what he's done. I kind of was under the impression he had already had.
We may have had an area one, but I don't
He
remember.
did, I was over
I don't
there and
remember.
he did not, there was nobody in his
Okay.
club that wanted it, there was nobody over at
Okay.
top hats
That
that
might
wanted
be
to
why.
do it, and
We have some new members since the request was made.
So see, you're already an area winner.
Yeah, you already won the area.
Speak it into existence.
I guess
so
it
it shall be.
Yeah, like Ren here has
Everyone
actually
gets a
joined our
trophy,
club
Ren.
since what we made the request.
Now, the question is, qualifications. Is there not a limited, that you have to have been a member for a certain amount of time? Did a certain number of speeches before you can do that?
I'll check that.
I know that for the internationals, there definitely.
Right.
But I don't know about I don't know about the, I just want to bring that up.
For the judging, I know there is a stipulation, but all of these stipulations are up to the discretion of the district chair.
So that's what we can do.
So I can be flexible with the rules, within limits. You know, I can waive a minimum number of speeches, or I would rather see somebody come up like you, who's now given one speech, because this is something you want to do. So I'm not going to discourage that. I'm not going to say, oh, you can't do it because you don't have 6 speeches yet. No, it's not, I don't think that's how it should operate. So that's my opinion, but district chair, I can do that.
That's right.
So-
Okay.
So if you guys would consider doing that, we would have it probably October 2nd. We'll finalize the starting time, but I'd say no later than 6:30, only to get everybody in place. I'm supposed to have, I'll talk to Charles and maybe make him the chief judge. We have to have 6 judges, and a tie-breaking judge, 3 counters for the votes and 2 timers, but we can sign those that night. And we're supposed to split it evenly among the areas, but it's going to be depending upon who shows up. It's in the long run. I'll try and get a head count of people that will come. Open seating, or it doesn't have to be around a table like this, especially if we have a lot of people. We might need some more chairs.
A whole stack of chairs.
Okay.
We can talk to the,
We got plenty of chairs.
I tell you,
No question.
I was in Toastmasters many years ago for the first time for a couple of years and never really saw anything above the club level. I've been a member of 2 clubs here in the Mississippi Gulf Coast for about, well, 1 club for 2.5 years and 1 club for about 6 months. So I now belong to 2 clubs. And I'd never gone to a contest, but I did go to the spring district conference and witnessed the contest for the first time. It's a lot of fun. It really is. You see a whole different side of things.
What's the highest level you can win?
International.
International?
Now,
Not
on this particular, now that's the spring. This particular contest, the highest you'll get is district. You have to compete
which
at
is
the
the next
district.
one up.
And that's gonna be on a Saturday in Niceville, Florida, on October 21st.
How many people are you talking about?
Well, let's see.
The more the merrier.
An uncomfortable amount.
There's,
An uncomfortable
An awkward amount?
Stadium.
there are 6,
Am I gonna sweat?
yeah, there are 6 divisions in the district, so it could be as many as 6 people in each. And it's fun. I tell you, the international contest was unbelievable how good that was. And one of the guys that would be coming to this did compete at that level. He did not win. But the young lady that won, they paid her hotel and plane ticket to go to Vancouver to compete.
Awesome.
So you want experience? This is a good way to do it. So, thank you for your time. Appreciate it very much. It's so much.
Well, that ends our educational overview. I will now turn the meeting over to Thomas to wrap it up as president.
Thank you, Cody, for a wonderful meeting. We will have one final piece of business for those who are current members, have already filled out your paperwork of the club. Would you just make a
I
motion?
move that we host the division speech contest for the fall at our club.
Here, here.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I forgot my pen. We have no awards. Well, actually, technically, we do have an award to give out tonight. Ren, will you please come forward?
Take a picture, Lane, so I can post it. Don't do that.
The first timer, I think, is the word we're looking for. When you give your first speech, you get your first timer award. It's the first time that you have gotten out of your comfort zone. It's also when you will get your international pin.
You gonna know me?
I can if you want.
Let's get off.
I generally will stab people when I'm doing stuff like that because I'm not good at it. So,
I'll wear
if you
it
would
with pride.
like, you can address the group one more time. If not,
I certainly will.
return to your seat.
Thank you for putting up with my attempt to not be so callow. I will wear this pin with honor, and I will carry it in very high regards. But no, in all seriousness, thank you, and I enjoy the stage, and I hope to get better. So, thank you.
So that concludes our awards. We have openings for everything on the agenda for next week. Right now, we'll take volunteers for anybody who is sure they're going to be here. Specifically, we're looking for speeches first, and then obviously after that, filling out the, and Toastmaster. Those are the first two that we always look for, so if
I
I
can do one of speeches.
can, because you're new and I've heard your name like 3 times.
It's Christine.
Christine.
Christ, I am. Everyone knows that's the voice.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you just a quick question.
Oh, you need the last name?
Yeah, the last name.
Y-O-R-I.
And what speech would this be? Because since you're not
Um,
part, I need to punch
yeah.
into our agenda what manual would be out of, what speech number, if you would know. If you know, if you don't know,
I can just do the intro again. I don't mind starting over.
sure, you don't start over.
That's all right.
I just
Yeah,
finished
like
my
icebreaker.
second, I just finished my second competent communicator.
Yeah.
So it does get recorded.
Yeah,
That's
You
fine.
can continue recording it
Yeah.
a second time.
yeah, I'm actually, my pocket speeches are all competent communicators where I'm trying to just hone in on the ones that I wasn't as good at last time. So a lot of them are the first
Yeah.
5 speeches. Do we have anybody else volunteering for a speech for next week?
I'll do it. Nobody else will.
We'll give you a week off.
Okay.
We have plenty of time. Because the next speech is, let me make sure, it's organization? Yeah.
Yep.
The next speech's about organizing your speech, and so we'll give you 2 weeks to prepare. So that in 2 weeks you can give a very well-organized speech instead of just jumping into that next one.
Roger.
I will not be here for 2 weeks.
Okay, so, now the other thing, do we have someone who's willing to volunteer to be Toastmaster? Part of what will happen is that when you're Toastmaster, you can ask Cody, it happened to him this time, you get made the manager of our agenda online.
Get a lot of emails.
And so you get a lot of emails because as part of being the Toastmaster, myself, Yu Ying, who is currently out of town, and the Toastmaster are in charge of making sure all roles are filled for the meeting. And so when you volunteer for Toastmaster, you start getting a lot of emails as people accept and reject their ability to attend. So, any volunteers for Toastmaster?
I'll do that.
Okay. Anybody want to volunteer for one of the easy, like timer, or grammarian, or an evaluator?
I could be timer, I think.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to miss. Timer? Got stolen
Mary.
I'm just saying, I don't want to do
I was wanting to assume that it's the same last name.
I can't spell grammar.
My wife and I have different last names. So
She's my sister.
Okay. So,
I'm not gonna say it, never mind.
assignments will be going out later this week for those of you who, for the roles that weren't volunteered for. So, anticipate an email telling you that you've been volunteered by myself or Lawrence.
Can I bring
to
up
fill the role.
You need to pay attention to these roles as well because you get credit in the leadership manual. each time you fill one of these roles. So.
Right. We do track that, and generally when I'm trying to fill, I know when Lawrence is trying to fill, when Eugene is trying to fill, we actually look at what you've accomplished so far to try to give you a role that will help you still develop as a leader in the leadership manual. So that's what we generally try to do. You have to have filled all the roles at least once. And I know for general evaluator, speech evaluator, you have to fill, and Toastmaster, you have to fill multiple times in order to achieve your competent leader award.
Does everybody know about Easy Speak?
I don't know if everybody knows about Easy Speak.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
I have to take the guest book home today and punch all of you guys who have visited us into Easy Speak so you can get your information, so you can log in.
And volunteer.
And volunteer for, one, you're able to volunteer for things where you don't feel the pressure quite as bad as I'm standing up here. And then you will also have the opportunity to track your progress so that you can more easily know what you need to volunteer for the next week in order to continue progressing in competent leader or in your speech progress. And routinely we go over how to use the online tool that we use. It's called Easy Speak. We go over that every so often because we always have new people that need to learn it.
If you want me to, I can do that next week.
As the educational overview?
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
If you bring, I can't get into Easy Speak and do everything that.
Yeah, I can bring my
tell you.
laptop. My laptop will be here every week, just general announcement. I will be bringing my laptop every single week so that we can pay our membership renewals, and for those of you who are still in the process of getting through paperwork to join, so we can get you guys through the rest of that paperwork. So my laptop will be here every week until then, and I believe Lawrence generally brings also an online device to be able to help with those things.
Well, I can't get into a lot of things anymore. My
I can log in.
has failed.
I can log in on
My
both.
connection has failed me.
I will log in on both if necessary.
Been so many years
Okay.
since I've not been able to get in.
Unless there is other business that someone would like to bring up, our meeting is adjourned.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. From my understanding, since there's no gravity on the moon, the trampoline's a really bad idea. So, after chastising the person who brought it and realizing that we're stuck on the moon, we probably need something fun to do for a while. I could say that it may be like an episode of Survivor where we take a vote and whoever's not pulling their weight on the science team, we just tie some rocks to them and, get them going really good and launch them off into orbit. Provide a little entertainment. That's probably about the only good thing I can think of to do with a trampoline. Other than that, I think we would have to tear it up and use it for parts for some experiments. So, Mr. Topic Master.
Ladies and gentlemen, now you have an idea of what kind of excitement is going to come in probably the relatively near future when we start trying to colonize space. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, everyone who